Alright all, and welcome back to a new video and another weekend preview as we look ahead towards the Ladbrokes Trophy, the Fighting Fifth, the Hattons Grace, the Drinmore and the Royal Bond. Some really good racing this weekend from Newbury, Newcastle and Fairyhouse, and you'll be getting a fix of all three tracks on this preview. So hopefully we can go and find some winners. Last week we had a pretty successful weekend with the big races, Imperial Aura being my nap of the weekend and Bristol Demai winning the Betfair Chase. So the two biggies over in England, and we had a few nice each way plays as well. Ask Dylan most notably placing at 22-1. Again, a little bit of housekeeping for you. We've got 3 days, I believe it is, maybe 4 days left of the Movember. So if I really do urge you this time round, if you have anything, like whether it's £2, whether it's £5, anything down below, this will be the last time I'll be plugging it. If you could put it in the link down below, it would be a real help to me. It would be great to see. I know a few of you have donated already, so thanks to those that have. You know who you are, and hopefully we can have just a couple more. Also, as I mentioned on last week's video about the horse racing ownership with Horse Racing Buddy, there is an interesting Black Friday offer if you want to get involved. It's usually £500 for the entire year. It is currently on offer at £400, and also you get a jacket, which I must say mine I think is in the post, which I can't wait for. And some really exciting news that we have an entry on Fairyhouse Hattons Grace weekend in the maiden hurdle. It's been split into 2 divisions on the Saturday. The 136, we have a horse entered up, Dramode Lad, for Eddie Harty. Look, it's a really strong maiden hurdle. We're up against Garda So, who's a really impressive point-to-point winner for Gordon Elliott. Hookups in there for Willie Mullins. So it's going to be very hard, but it's great to have a runner of any variety in these weekends, and that's, I suppose, what this ownership option is giving you. It's giving you a chance to have runners in these sort of things and feel a part of it all, and that's what we're really looking for in terms of horse racing ownership. It's at an affordable level, and of course, if you do want to get involved, do shoot me a message, comment down below, or follow me on Twitter or Instagram and message me there, and I'll make sure to give you all the details you require. Moving on though into the weekend preview, starting off tomorrow at Newbury. 3 races to cover, a novice chase, a handicap chase and the stairs hurdle, the 3 mile race. I think it's the long walk, or is that the... No, it's the long distance, sorry, the long walk's the one at Ascot. So the novice chase, over 2.5 miles, it's cut up into a 3-runner field. It's not a bad 3-runner field at that, but I must say, the more I look at this, and I wouldn't be one to spout on about short price favourites, as I hope some of you guys know, but I think Fiddlerontheroof at even money, which Paddy Power are currently offering up, is not a bad price, actually. I just think he's better than these 2 horses, is he not? Getaway Trump's a horse that you just couldn't trust with your life on it, to be honest. Like, whenever you're really against it, he does seem to pull a win out of the fire, but when you... almost backing up wins seems to be a real problem for Getaway Trump, so it's not something I could entertain. And Caribbean Boy, I don't know too much about, but his form from last year was more of handicap grade than graded level, and Fiddlerontheroof, you could argue he won a very soft grade 1 last year, but he still was a pretty good novice hurdler, and he's looked pretty decent on his 2 chase starts. I thought he jumped really well when beating Silver Hallmark last time. Maybe he needs a step up from 2.5 miles, but I think he should be winning this race tomorrow. And even though it's even money, I think it's actually not the worst price in the world. The handicap chase over 2 mile 4 furlongs is a tricky race, very trappy affair, and I've landed on Defi Sacre for Richard Hobson. James Best takes the ride. He's 10-1, which I think is a fair each-way price for this 7-year-old. He's off a mark of 129, which means he's in here off 10 stone, so he's in off a featherweight. The only issue with this horse is the trip, because he's done an awful lot of his running over 2 miles, including winning twice at Newbury last winter over 2 miles. He seems to be fairly ground versatile, so it's really just the trip that's the problem with this horse. He reappeared at Aintree there a few weeks ago at the Old Roan meeting when he was second to the Big Bite. That was a pretty solid run for seasonal reappearance, considering I don't think he's won on seasonal reappearance before. And hopefully he'll have come forward for that. He's obviously coming back to a track he knows and loves. And if he can see out that extra half mile, I think he should be bang there. And 10-1, I think that probably the 10-1 is reflective over the trip doubts, but I'm willing to take that chance. And I think hopefully of a real lightweight, it mightn't catch him out and he could run a big race. The long distance hurdle over 3 miles is probably the best race on Friday across all the cards. It's a real fascinating clash. Paisley Park's there, McFabulous is there, Thyme Hill's there, last year's Stairs hurdle winner Lisnagar Oscar, Sam Spinner. Like, it's a real who's who of this 3 mile division. I think Paisley Park is very vulnerable in this race, and I may be open to eat my words, as many people will know. I'm more than happy to. I do like Paisley Park as a horse. I like the connections. I think it's been a real good story for racing, but I think he's just vulnerable at the prices here, and vulnerable against the horses he's coming up against. He has beaten Somerville Boy before, he has beaten Lisnagar Oscar before, but he's never run against horses like McFabulous and Thyme Hill, and it'd be very interesting to see how much they can scale up the ranks this year. As people will know who watch my videos regularly, I've put up Thyme Hill at 16-1 for the Stairs hurdle. He's contracted into 12-1 despite us not having seen him yet, which just sums up bookies with anti-post betting at the moment. He's around 5-1, 6-1 for this race. I know it's a bit scummy, but I'm going to probably put him up each way, because it wouldn't surprise me if he ran a really nice race and came second or third on reappearance. I certainly wouldn't be chucking in the towel on his Stairs hurdle dream if that is the case. I'm just hoping he runs well. I'd like to see a bit of rain around to maybe increase his chances. I think he goes a little bit better on a bit softer ground. The Albert Bartlett form is form I like a lot. Janadil did heaps for it there last weekend as well. He looked really impressive in that beginner's chase at Naas that I quite fancied. Cedarwood Road, who underperformed. But he was fifth in the Albert Bartlett, beating the guts of 10 lengths. So it looks on the face of things like it is strong form, so that's what I'm going to take. McFabulous is a horse that I can see why people are getting behind. He's just not a horse I've particularly grown to just yet, but maybe after this weekend that may be different. I think he's probably my main threat in the race. As I say, I'd be fairly willing to take on Paisley Park. Moving on to Saturday, just covering the 2 races on Saturday, the Ladbrokes Trophy being one of them at Newbury, and it feels almost wrong to be going against the Conditional, so I won't. I'd be with him here. He's 7-1, 8-1. Look, it's probably a race you get 5 or 6 places in, so it's not the worst each way price. It is above, obviously, you know, it'll be a fifth of the odds, but it is above even money from that perspective. And I think this horse has a real good chance of winning the race. He was second in the race last year behind Rasher Counter, arguably a little bit unlucky at that. And he won the Ultima handicap chase. Now, he has been raised an awful lot of weight for that race, but you'd have to think he won that race in the style of an improver and the style of a horse that potentially is going to get better with racing and with more runs under his belt. I remember him coming, I think it was 3rd or 4th in a Leinster National when trained by Martin Hassett back in Ireland, and he looked still a very raw horse then, and I think there is still improvement to come from this horse, and hopefully going forward he can do the job on the weekend. It would be brilliant for Connections, David Bridgewater, Brendan Powell in the saddle for them to have another big day in the sun and to land the old Hennessy. One that I am keeping an eye on from a ground perspective, and I'm going to put him up because, again, I think he could run a nice race, was last year's 6th, the horse called Mr. Malarky. I'd like for this horse, to be honest, for the ground to stay as nice as it is, because he won a Kempton handicap over 3 miles off a mark of 147 last year. He was 6th in this race last year off this mark. He's running off this mark of 150 again. John Joe O'Neill Jr. in the saddle. The Tizzards may arguably have a much better proposition for the race in Copperhead, but I think this horse has some form to his name. You know, he wasn't a bad novice chaser a few years ago. I think he came 4th or 5th in an RSA, and now beaten quite a while, but did run in an RSA, and I just think he's the type of horse that crops up in these races and maybe runs a race. He's 16-1 at the moment. It mightn't be the worst each way price. And the only other race I'm going to cover on Saturday is at Fairyhouse, and it's a 2-mile handicap chase. I think it's the 12:35. It was the 101 when I initially made my notes for this weekend, but I think it has been changed with the Mare's Hurdle. And I really like a horse in this called Snugsborough Hall for Liam Cusack. Dennis O'Regan takes the ride, running off a mark of 143. He had a nice little pipe opener behind Call Me Lyrene at Sligo last time out over hurdles. The only thing that would temper your enthusiasm was he did he broke blood vessels last time he ran over fences at the Dublin Racing Festival last year, which is a big tempering of that enthusiasm, because we see what's happened to Lorena. Sometimes when they break blood vessels, they just continue to do so. But I remember this horse winning at Leopardstown, a little forerunner race when I was there. That must have been March 2019, I suspect. And then he went on to win at the Punchestown Festival in 2019, beating Impact Factor, who he reopposes here by 5.5 lengths. He was whacked up a ton of weight for that, but he won that in the style of a real improving horse. And I still think there is probably a bit of juice in this handicap mark. You do run the risk with the blood vessels, stuff like that. I think he'll hopefully be an each way price. It hasn't been priced up yet, but hopefully he'll be an each way price and can run well. Look, you might be thinking about the Fighting Fifth. I will cover the Fighting Fifth because more than likely it's going to be in the title. But realistically, I think Epatante will win. I don't think any of these horses are anywhere good enough to give her £7. I don't think we'll learn an awful lot. I think she'll win probably in second gear. She'll be shortened for the Champion Hurdle as a result, even though she probably won't have beaten anything that's going to run in the Champion Hurdle. And yeah, I don't have much of a say on it, and we're going to come to that with probably Envoy Len in a minute or two's time with the Drinmore. Like, it's just not a betting heat. You know, you want Epatante to win for the good of racing, for the good of stars being in the game, but it's no betting proposition at 4 to 7 for myself. Moving on to Fairyhouse on Sunday, and it's a brilliant day, Hatton's Grace Day. It's a shame you can't be there. The last 2 or 3 years I have been there and it's been brilliant, but you know, these things happen and we're hopefully going to be able to enjoy what should be a stacked card nonetheless. Obviously, full declarations haven't come out for this card. I will stress that for Friday and Saturday's racing they have, so those horses that I've mentioned for those races should definitely be running. Not so sure with these horses, but hopefully they will. The Royal Bond Novices Hurdle is the first one we'll be tackling, and I see there's been a move for She Wears It Well into favouritism on Paddy Power. She's into 6 to 4, Ballyadam out to 13 to 8. I'm going to be siding with Ballyadam in this race at 13 to 8. I do think he is potentially a star in the ascendancy. She Wears It Well could be a seriously good mare, but at the end of the day, I suspect she will rock up in the Mares Novices Hurdle. I doubt she'll run in a Supreme, one way or the other almost. So I just think Ballyadam could be a real star, and I'm not for 1 second saying She Wears It Well won't be a star, but Ballyadam is actually probably the horse of the two that I'd prefer to win. And that's strange for me because I'm usually big Willie Mullins' biggest fanboy going around. But I love Ballyadam. I think he could be a really good horse. I know there's an awful lot of hype about him. I get that. But you've got to let yourself in on some of the hype sometimes. Like, it's, you know, they're good horses, and you want, if you don't want good horses to become great horses in horse racing, I'm not really sure why you're in the game. And people love to kind of squash good looking horses and stuff like that. I'd be more trying to big them up, and I think Ballyadam hopefully can go get the job done in the Royal Bond. The Drinmore, look, you're just hoping Envoy Len gets there, jumps round safely and wins. There's no more getting away from that. I think Gordon Elliott holds the key in terms of how difficult he wants Envoy Len to have a race, because he could obviously run one of his two other runners against him, which will make it automatically a better race. But I'm just not sure whether he will or not. You know, Easy Work, Andy Dufresne, I certainly don't think all three of them will run against each other, but Envoy Len looks to have the measure of pretty much everything in training at the moment, so you'd have to hope he goes and wins this race and prolongs that unbeaten record. You know, every time he runs, it's almost a fingers crossed moment for me. You just want him to keep enhancing his reputation. Moving on to the Porterstown Handicap Chase, and this is a seriously good race. 3 mile, 5 furlong Handicap Chase. The last 2 years' winners were Dinny's Vinny and Killer Miller, 2 of the real greats of the National Hunt game for sluggers. And you guys know how much I rate this horse, Captain CJ. I thought he might win the Irish National last year before it was obviously abandoned because of COVID-19. And I don't know whether he would have or not, you know. Now that it hasn't taken place, I can obviously get off course he would have won. But he was very close behind Manelindo in a beginner's chase, only beating a length and a half, and then went on to win the Grade 2 10-up novices chase by 6 lengths. So, you know, that's not bad form. Now, he did jump like an absolute drain on reappearance at Limerick over 2.5 miles. I'm hoping to just put that down to the fact that of the ground over 2.5. He wasn't, like, he came back in the Racing Post comment. It said that the horse was never travelling, like the jockey stated the horse was never travelling. So hopefully that was just a pipe opener. It was a little bit of a disconcerting run, I will admit, but he's in here off a mark of 143, and I think if he takes his chance, he surely has to go close in a race like this. His jumping probably does leave a hint to be desired, especially considering in a 3.5 mile race he's got probably 22, 23 fences to take around Fairyhouse, but hopefully he can go and get the job done. I think he is a horse that is better than a rating of 143, and there will be a day this horse will land a big handicap chase, so hopefully Sunday might be the one when we're on. The 8th race we'll be covering on this video is the Hattons Grace Hurdle, and I know some of you guys were giving out last year because I was very anti-Honeysuckle, and it was just one of those ones you had to be in Honeysuckle's camp or Benny's camp. You just had to take a side. I took Benny's side. Honeysuckle came and beat us. I don't think there was much excuses. Look, I think she wins this race. She's 4-6, 4-7. That's not a price I'd like to back at. I think she'll win this race. I don't think there's anything good enough. It's a bit like Epatante on Saturday. I don't think there's anything good enough to give her £7. When you look at the mare's allowance with those types of mares, you do think it's a bit of a farce. But she should be winning this race. There's an awful lot of horses I like in the race, though, an awful lot of horses I'd love to see run well. Beacon Edge is a horse I really like. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that. French Dynamite I put up in my horses to follow, and he ran an absolute stormer behind Sire de Burleigh on seasonal reappearance. And Ronald Pump was running in that race as well and ran a very gallant race until falling at the last. Probably of the 3, I'd maybe side with Ronald Pump at 10-1 each way. I could see him running into the frame. He is a good horse. He does stay very well over 2.5 miles, and he'll be ridden to come home and pick up pieces like he always is. And maybe in a race like this, the bird will have flown and Honeysuckle will set for sail, turning into the home straight, and maybe Ronald Pump will only just be about to pick up pieces. But if he's ridden that way, if he travels into the race, and if that fall at Navan hasn't taken enough out of him, I think he certainly could run into a place at 10-1 each way, but more than likely Honeysuckle will just win. And the final race I'll be covering is the 305, the big 2 mile handicap hurdle, and I'd be taking another chance on the top weight in this race. Hopefully he gets entered, a horse called Cayd Boy for Liz Doyle and Mark Walsh. I think this is a potentially very smart horse. It wouldn't surprise me if at some stage down the line, maybe not this season, maybe not next season, but at some stage this horse will be a graded horse. He won in the manner of a real potential improver at Down Royal when winning off a mark of 134 on handicap debut. He was given kind of a safety first ride really by Mark Walsh. I think it wasn't a ride of a horse they particularly fancied, if I'm being perfectly honest. He was 4 or 5 wide all the way at Down Royal. If you haven't seen the race, do go back and look at it, and still managed to win by a length and a bit. Quite cosily as well. He's been up to £9 for that effort, and as I say, will have to carry top weight in this race if he does go and enter himself into it. But he potentially is a step ahead still of the handicapper. He's only 5 going 6. I saw him win his maiden hurdle at Wexford last year on the listed chase day down there, the Hickey Memorial Day. And he won with plenty in hand against a horse called Friary Rock, who's won a few times for Mouse Morris this year in staying novices hurdles. So He's a pretty good horse, this. It wouldn't surprise me if he's better than a mark of 143 going forward, and maybe something to side with in the big 2 mile handicap if he does get entered. That concludes this week's video. It's been around 20 minutes. I hopefully haven't bored you too much, and if you have stuck around for the 20 minutes, I hope you have enjoyed it. Really hope that the weekend delivers on the promise it's shown. You know, you've got big horses running. You've Epatante, you've Honeysuckle, MVLN, Ballyadam, she wears it well. So many stars. Hopefully they can all do their bit in making sure it is a great weekend. Of course, if you did like the video, please do give it a like and subscribe to the channel down below. We passed 2,000 subscribers during the week, which was a big thing for me. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed. No subscriber goes unnoticed. It really does mean an awful lot to me, and if you are new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you do enjoy the content. And of course, comment down below who you think are the best bets for the weekend. If you have something for us across any of the cards, make sure to let us all know so we can hopefully win a few quid together. And until next week, we might actually have a Cheltenham anti-post update on Monday, because Fairyhouse will often give us plenty of clues. So maybe then, or at minimum next weekend, looking forward to Tingle Creek weekend. So I will see you guys then, and I hope between then and now you stay safe, stay well, land a few bets, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.